Hello, everyone. You are at our intern orientation for the 2025 cycle of the Housing Internship Program through ACUHO-I. So hopefully you are in the right place. Um, we are going to just share some information with you all today about some things to think about before you start your internship. We know that some are getting started very, very soon, probably even as early as this weekend. So we want to make sure that you all feel prepared going into that and are taking some time to consider things that you might not have thought about before you head out to your internships. Like I mentioned earlier, we are super excited to spend some time with you all. We'll start with introducing ourselves. So my name is Aspen Shackelford. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Housing Internship Program Committee Chair. But outside of that, my normal 9 to 5 day job is in resident life at University of Maryland. And I'm going to pass it to Kimberly.
Hi there, my name is Kimberly Bright Brooks. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a committee member of the Housing Internship Program Committee. In my normal day to day, I'm a residence director at Syracuse University.
And hi, everybody. Spencer Giese, Education Program Manager at ACUHO-I. I'll be here in the background running tech today. And you've all gotten so many emails from me. So thanks for your response and for signing up for this webinar today.
Awesome. Um, well, as I mentioned, we're going to tell you all some things to think about, as well as some resources that you all can utilize throughout the summer. But before we get started, Spencer, if you could change to the next slide. We really just want to start by saying congratulations. So all of you that are in here today have accepted an internship offer. So you deserve some big congratulations. Pat yourself on the back because we know that it was a long interview process, an application process, and getting all of your materials ready and researching a lot of these institutions. And so that can be a big process in and of itself. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. So definitely a big congratulations to you all for getting your internships, accepting them, and now getting ready to head to them. Next slide, please, Spencer. Awesome. Okay, so to get us started, one of the big things for you all to really start thinking about is orienting yourself in this new place you're going to be in. So for a lot of you, you might be traveling far, some are closer than others, but you're going somewhere new. And so there's a lot to think about when you want to really like embed yourself in that space, but also make sure that you feel comfortable in your new environment. So first, I'm going to talk to you all about just getting to know the area in general. And so one, I really encourage you all to do your research. So when you think about the new city that you're going to be in, think about things that are important to you in the day-to-day where you currently are. So whether that be restaurants, if you like a certain cuisine, you'll probably want to search for where you can get that, how easily accessible it is, but also just restaurants in general and food. So thinking about grocery stores. If you are going to be cooking your own food over the summer, you'll want to make sure that you have easy access to that grocery store and you'll want to figure out and map out a plan of where that might be, how you're going to get there, things like that, as well as local attractions, because you all will be working at your internships, but also this is the time to explore a new place. It could be somewhere that you might want to travel to later or live in later. And so thinking about kind of what does this place have to offer and how can you take advantage of that and explore that when you're there. You might be in a smaller city, so there might be larger cities nearby or cities that have unique or specific attractions in them that are also nearby. And so that's also something to research and kind of map out if you have free time throughout the summer, when can you maybe visit some of the nearby cities? And then also medical care is a big one that we don't often think about. So thinking about if you need prescriptions filled, or if you just need doctor's appointments or things like that, thinking about that a little bit in advance can also be super helpful as well. And so a lot of this can be found via research. You could do a Google search, you can look on TripAdvisor, things like that. TikTok even might have a lot of local attractions, but there's also things that you might want to ask your supervisor. And so first and foremost, talking to them about what your summer accommodations is going to look like will be super helpful before you get there. If they're able to share with you like exactly what the space may look like, that may help in terms of figuring out how much stuff to bring, or what you don't or what you do need to bring with you. Or if they're even able to just describe it, that can be helpful, knowing whether you're in a room versus an apartment with a kitchen or things like that. So really figuring out kind of what that will look like. Will you have a meal plan or will you need to get groceries? What are restaurants nearby like if you do need to get food and you plan to purchase food instead of cooking food? Just thinking about what that will look like and getting those details as specific as possible from your supervisor before you head out there can be super helpful. If you are planning to bring a vehicle with you, asking your supervisor what parking may look like. It may need to be something that you have to pre-purchase before you arrive. So you'll want to make sure that you are working through that earlier rather than later. But also talking about campus amenities and resources. So if you're a person who likes to go to the gym, seeing if there's a fitness center either on campus that you might have access to or nearby that you could get a membership at. So asking about that and health center as well. That could be another option for prescriptions or just for doctor's appointments. It's always good to know where the nearest medical center is in the event that there's an emergency. Hopefully, there are no emergencies at your internship, but you never know. And so making sure you know where that is can be super helpful and having that in the back of your mind. And then also asking about dress code. So different institutions have different expectations around attire for the day to day. And it's also going to be summer, and so it's going to be hot, and so you want to dress, well, hot in most places, but you want to dress appropriately for the weather while also making sure that you're meeting those expectations. So talking through that with your supervisor in advance can also be a good thing to figure out as well, because that really impacts what you're bringing clothing wise. Another big thing to consider is personal finances. So you all will be receiving some compensation for your internships. That looks different for every institution. But if you are receiving a stipend or a weekly or monthly paycheck, you'll want to figure out kind of how you'll receive that money. So some institutions offer direct deposit, but some offer paper checks. And so you'll want to figure out what you are receiving. And if you are receiving paper checks, you'll probably need access to a bank, or maybe you have mobile banking where you can submit a check. But you'll want to figure that out. And so that you can access your funds during the summer. You'll also want to think about budgeting. You might be coming from somewhere where you're paying rent right now, and you may still have to pay rent throughout the summer. And so thinking about how that could impact your budget, as well as expenses that come up like groceries or eating at restaurants. And so you'll definitely want to think about what your budget will look like throughout the summer just to make sure that you are living as close to your means as possible, and not creating financial strain on yourself if at all possible. The other part with meals is planning the finances, but also the time. You have to build in time in your schedule to actually cook for yourself if that's what you're planning to do. So working with your supervisor to figure out kind of what does the day-to-day typically look like? Is it 9 to 5? Is there evening obligations? And things like that to really map out not only your finances, but also your time. Time is also a big resource as well. And then again, saving money for fun. If you are exploring, some of these things may cost money. But it's also a really unique opportunity to be in this new environment. And so you do want to try to make sure that you can build in some time in the budget and in the schedule to have some of that fun as well. So definitely some questions to ask your supervisor before you arrive are: one, is direct deposit an option? But then also more about those meal plans, and then access to a kitchen. So if that is something you will even have access to, you'll want to consider that in your options. But also public transportation. If you're not bringing a vehicle with you, you'll want to figure out, does the campus have transportation? Does the city have transportation? Or is the city really walkable? And you can just find a grocery store near where you're living and can kind of just go back and forth as needed. But then also your supervisor lives in that area. So ask them about what's fun and what local events are going on, what you can check out. They may go with you, or they may also just give you recommendations. So definitely pick their brain for some of those fun options as well. So with starting in a new place and starting in a new environment, even if it's for a short time, the hope is that you all are building lots of new relationships with people at the institution that you'll be working at this summer. And so the biggest relationship you'll be building most likely is with your supervisor. And so we really encourage you all to think about what do you need from a supervisor in order to be successful. This is a little different than a lot of other job experience because it's so short term. You're learning a lot, you're doing a lot, but it's only, 4 to 8 weeks for most of these experiences. And so, really honing in on what do you need to feel like you have the tools that you need to be successful. So Kimberly will talk a little later about the workbook and kind of ways to start reflecting on that. But just to get the idea in your mind, definitely start thinking about, what have been good supervisory experiences that you've had in the past or bad, and what have you learned from those experiences in order to really articulate the things that you might need in this supervisory experience over the summer. And then also, what types of relationships do you want to build? So you might be supervising students yourself over the summer. And so kind of what do you want those relationships to look like? And so some of you may have experience with this in your um, graduate assistantships if you have those, or just experiences that you've had as undergrad students currently or in the past. And so thinking about like what do you want your relationship to look like with the students that you are working with over the summer, and then also working with your supervisor to figure out kind of how can they help you navigate those relationships as well, because you're coming in for a short time, but these students they're going to be here after you leave working at this institution. And so, how can you work together to leverage the information that they probably already know about the campus environment, and can share with you over the summer, and then utilizing your experiences from wherever you're coming from to add to their experiences as well. And so, making it a mutual positive relationship. And how do you want to do that? And what do you want it to look like is what you all can start thinking about now. Next slide, please. Um, Along with that as well, setting boundaries. That is something that we hear a lot in housing and resident life work, but it's a lot easier said than done. And so really thinking about kind of what are boundaries going to look like for you. If you are in a role this summer where you are on call, for example, thinking about kind of when you're not on call, what will that then look like in terms of you being able to make time for yourself, to do some of the things you need to do to explore the city and things like that. What will that look like? And so creating boundaries depends on the relationships. And so you'll have different boundaries for different people. And so you'll definitely want to start thinking about what do boundaries look like with peers, even with communication. If there are other interns that you're working with this summer or just other staff on site, thinking about like how do you want to be communicated with? Are there hours when you're not working that communication might look different or would be preferred in a different way? Um, Same with your supervisor. How does your supervisor want to be contacted? What is the best way for your supervisor to contact you? And are you both on the same page with that? And then your supervisees as well, and thinking about kind of how should they be contacting you? What does that look like in terms of you making time for meetings with them, especially after hours? And so really thinking about what those boundaries may look like while also managing your own needs as a human being, and building in time for that as well. And so that's something you'll want to start thinking about. And I definitely encourage you to think about what does life currently look like? What are the things in your day that you need to be successful as a human and you need to be happy as a human. And so, how can you build that into your experience over the summer as well, to make sure that you're meeting your needs and making sure that you are making time for yourself and your wellness? The other thing to think about is what are areas of campus that you want to learn about? So you're going to a new institution, even if it is for a short time span, you can still learn a lot. You can meet people, you can learn about how other institutions operate, and you can take that with you for future experiences. And so, in thinking about that, when you're doing research on the campus, thinking about like, are there other departments that are of interest to you or other people that are of interest to you that maybe your supervisor can easily get you connected with, since they already have that knowledge of who's on campus and what they do. And so thinking about kind of what are experiences that you might still want, even beyond your internship experience, will be great. And like I mentioned, the workbook that Kimberly's going to talk about, there's space in there for you to think about specifically who are those people and what are those areas in the campus community that you might want to get intentionally connected with throughout your time there. For those of you that have a cohort of interns with you, or just even more than one of you, um, that's also a good opportunity to build relationships as well. So what do you want those relationships to look like? I always use myself as an example when I think about a cohort of interns. When I was an ACUHO-I intern many moons ago, there were 7 of us, which was super awesome because we had each other to rely on, and we were able to plan fun opportunities with each other, but at the same time, respecting everyone's boundaries. Not everyone wanted to go whitewater rafting or go into the desert. And so definitely working with each other to figure out who likes what, who wants to explore what with each other, but also recognizing that these are connections that you might have for years and years to come. And so I still follow all of the other 6 interns on social media and we see what we're doing. We congratulate each other on big life steps. And so it's really nice to build those relationships as well. Um, and then just also figuring out your own boundaries. Like, do you even want to hang out with people after work after you might have seen them all day? If not, that's okay. But also just communicating that and knowing what works for you and what doesn't. Because you really want it to be an effective relationship, but also a lasting relationship, and that takes maintenance. And so figuring out what that can look like, and it can also be awkward at first. Trying to, like any new relationship, you meet someone, it's kind of awkward. You're like, who are you? They're like, who are you? And so just kind of figuring that out, and making space to kind of get through the awkwardness. You know, you're all in this together if you are in a cohort. So you're all learning together, but at the same time, you're all bringing in different skills already. So relying on each other and learning from one another can really go a long way throughout the summer and beyond. Um, so another piece of navigating relationships are within the department itself. So you kind of have to learn how things work at the new institution that you're working with. So definitely talking to your supervisor about general expectations there. What do boundaries look like among staff there? Do staff hang out with each other outside of work, or is it pretty much mostly during the business hours? And so figuring that out can also be important, and leaning into the information that your supervisor already has to share those norms and those expectations and those boundaries with you can be super helpful as a new person coming in. And that can be expectations for a lot of things. You know, it could be expectations for attire, it could be expectations for communication. Is this a Microsoft Teams school or a Google Drive school? You know, figuring things out like that, just so that you're on board and you can have an easier transition into the experience when you get there. Another thing that is an option is a virtual business card. So you're there for a short time, so you may not have official business cards when you most likely won't actually when you go. However, you want to stay connected with the people that you're meeting there. And so Kimberly shared a really awesome resource called Blink, which is an online platform where you can create free virtual business cards. You can add your LinkedIn or other social media links there. You can add your name, information about yourself, pretty much anything that you would put on a paper business card, you can upload there and you can download it and you can share it. And so that can be a really, really awesome tool, especially if you're meeting like staff at the institution that you want to get connected with or other departments that you have interest in the future, because you really never know where this internship could lead to, what it could lead to in the future. Many interns apply for full-time positions at the schools that they interned at. And so keeping connected with people can be super helpful long term as well. So I encourage you all to check that out. And I'm going to pass it over to Kimberly now.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be chatting a little bit about the Housing Internship Program Workbook, which is going to be an awesome resource that Aspen's already alluded to a little bit, that you can use throughout your time in your internship, as well as before and after, to set some goals and then reflect on the experience as well. So the housing internship workbook, you're going to have 3 separate sections, and the first section is going to be really prompting you before your internship to think about what you want that experience to look like. That's personally and professionally, and what goals you have heading into your internship. So this is going to give really meaningful prompts of different things to think about that maybe you haven't had the opportunity to sit down and think about. How do you manage through feelings of nervousness and excitement? And then also, how are you creating a summer bucket list to make the most out of the experience while you're there? All of the pre planning work to set yourself up really successfully for the experience you're about to have. The second portion of the workbook is about during your internship. So, how are you tracking that journey from your first day throughout the final week there? It's going to prompt you to think about some of the observations that you're learning, some of the challenges that you're experiencing. What are the wins of the experience that you're having? And then, how are you comparing that to your home institution? And what learning are you getting from that experience of seeing things from a different perspective on a different institution? By the end of the internship, you'll have the opportunity to reflect on the experience, think about the accomplishments that you've made, and then just reflect on that sense of belonging throughout your internship and how you can take that back. And then the last portion of the workbook is for you after your program. So, how are you reflecting on the time that you spent? What are the learning moments that you've taken out of the internship? How are you going to add this to your resume? What folks have you connected with during your time at the internship? How are you keeping in contact with them after you're done? This is a really great opportunity to network throughout your internship. And how are you continuing that networking experience past your time? So, learning a new institutional context and culture. So, heading into this experience, the workbook is going to be a really great tool to help cultivate an openness to learning. So, you are heading into a new experience, maybe a different role, and definitely a new environment for most folks. And so, how are you remaining adaptable in those new environments and collaborating with others to allow you to absorb some of that new information and the skills that you are being exposed to add to your toolbox? When you're thinking about your past experiences, so where you're coming from, your home institutions, where you are now, and what you want to do moving forward, how are you remaining open to learning from all of those different experiences? So, one place will not be better or worse than another. It's going to be different. And so, how are we remaining open to that difference and taking that as a learning opportunity and learning about what you might want for the future or what you don't want in a future institution or role or experience? Um, Try to avoid referencing at my institution or at my undergraduate institution in ways that is comparative of better or worse. While it might be different, this is a really great opportunity, again, to remain open to learning how a different place does things. And while you might have really good suggestions to be referring to at your institutions, that doesn't mean that that is the only way to do it. And so, how are you taking that, getting your learning from it, and also remaining open? And then political navigation and networking. So, as an intern in a new environment, office politics are going to be different. It's different in every office and in every institution. And so, how are you remaining open and observant to what those campus politics are so that you can navigate them strategically in your time, learn from that experience, but avoid getting caught up in any drama that may be happening? There's definitely a balance between observing and also staying out of conflicts while learning from that experience. So, how are you navigating that smartly and with maturity so that you can take an opportunity to move forward with? Intentional just about the people that you are connecting with throughout that time so that you can continue that learning opportunity. In the workbook, there are sections for you to work with your supervisor as well and set some goals together and independently. So you'll have the opportunity and be prompted to set some personal and professional goals. What are you setting for yourself for the summer? What are you hoping to gain out of this experience? And also, how are you going to achieve those goals? If you've ever worked with SMART goals before, the prompts will walk you through how to think about a goal and then what steps are you going to need to take to achieve it. And then how often are you going to revisit your goals throughout the time that you're there to watch for how you're progressing in achieving those goals. It's also going to prompt you to think about how you're going to communicate your goals with your supervisor. Is that going to be something that you share openly with your supervisor and ask them for assistance with? Is it more of an independent goal? How are you going to be communicating that with your network while you're there to make sure that you are able to achieve as many of the goals that you've set for yourself as possible in the limited time that you are at your internship? And then how is your resume going to showcase the alignment of your professional goals with your summer experience? You're going to learn a lot in this internship program. And so, how has that learning pushed you further towards your goals? And how are you articulating that as you're looking for your next opportunities? And then also intersecting goals. So, how are your goals for the summer intersecting with your grad program or your undergraduate experience, your future goals, your professional goals? Are you trying the role that you have accepted out to see if that's something that you want to pursue in the future? And then reflecting on it as you've completed your internship to see how you want to move forward. Like we said earlier, so networking is key. So in your workbook, there's going to be a passport to your internship, and this is a prompt for you to be able to identify some different offices or key players that are within your department or within the institution that your internship is. To be able to communicate with your supervisor. It's also going to prompt your supervisor to think about, from their perspective, what are some of the key players that you should be interacting with in your limited time at the institution, and how can you work together with your supervisor to be setting up meet and greet opportunities with these folks to keep expanding your network. There's also opportunity at the end of the Passport to Your program to reflect on the meet and greet. You can bring that work to the meet and greets that you are setting up, where you're chatting with what you've learned from those folks and revisit the experience throughout your time. And then the next slide. So finally, the workbook is going to, in the final portion, have you reflect on your experience. What are you planning to bring back to the campus that you are returning to after you've completed your entire internship? Like I said a little bit earlier, it's a great learning opportunity. And so what are the nuggets of wisdom that you're planning to bring back to your assistantship or your classes, or if you're moving on to a more professional role, to that experience as well? And then also, what have you learned about yourself during the experiences? How have you grown throughout your time at your internship site? What did you learn about yourself, about what you want or don't want out of your next career move? What are the things that maybe surprised you about yourself that you didn't know if you'd be able to accomplish and you succeeded, right? Doing that reflective work to be able to take the things that you've learned and keep that forward momentum after your internship has concluded. And then how will you continue to build the connections that you've made? So networks are a beautiful thing that will continue after your time at your internship program. As Aspen said, she connects with the folks that she was in her internship cohort with still to this day. So how are you going to keep fostering those experiences and tap into those resources as you are moving and navigating throughout your career? I'm going to pass it back to Aspen.
Hey. So we've definitely given you all a lot of questions and a lot of things to think about. But I think the biggest thing to take away from today is really thinking about two things. One, what are the questions that you have for your supervisor before you even arrive? So that's probably mostly logistical things. And so you'll want to gather your thoughts on that, write down your questions, and see about reaching out to your supervisor in advance, as well as confirming things, like your arrival, where you're going to go to get your keys, who's going to meet you there. Is someone going to pick you up from the airport, or do you need to use a rideshare option? Things like that, logistical stuff. So definitely start a list of things you might have, or questions you might have. Make sure you know how to reach out to your supervisor. They may be also in the background coordinating all of those things, so they might not have answers yet, especially if your internship starts a little later into the summer. So they may be working on that. But, just have a list in mind of things that you're hoping to know before you get there. And then the second piece is thinking about what you want to talk to your supervisor about in your first official meeting with them. And so that may be, well, that is a really great opportunity to start talking about some of those goals that Kimberly mentioned and thinking about what are the actionable steps related to that goal. Because you might have the goal right now, but you might not have all the nitty gritty and all the details that your supervisor can help add to that to make your goals really come to life. And so thinking about what you want to talk through with them in that first meeting is also super important. And so we encourage you all to really work on that before piece in the workbook so that when you get to your first meeting, you have that. You can bring it with you if you want, and you can discuss those things. Supervisors will also be given a copy of the workbook, so they should know what you're talking about and have some ideas of things to chat with you about as well, if you don't necessarily have it ready to talk to them about. But definitely thinking about that before piece and then that initial first day, first meeting type of information as well. Next slide, please, Spencer. The other thing that we want to share with you all are some upcoming opportunities. So we have three big things that we want to touch on. The first one being the Summer Summit series. So this is a virtual conference style opportunity that will allow you all to get some professional experience and understand kind of more context around housing and resident life. So we will have different speakers from different institutions who you can attend their sessions. We'll also have some panelists there, some previous interns talking about their experiences and how that has helped them throughout their career, the transferable skills they got, and things like that. And then we will also have some supervisors there as well, past and present, who will also be connecting. And that's also another networking opportunity for you all, as well as just the opportunity to connect with each other. So it'll be interns from all over there at the summit. And so we'll give you all some opportunities to meet each other virtually, get to hear about each other's different internships. And so this is definitely a great opportunity. We will be running this on June 12th and June 17th. It will be noon to 3:30 p.m. both days. And we'll have different sessions running. So you can attend one day or both days if you'd like, depending on your interest in the sessions. We encourage you to come to both. And supervisors will also know about this as well. So hopefully you'll be able to work with your supervisor to build in time in your schedule to attend these opportunities. The other piece, we want to definitely make sure that you all are getting connected with each other. Like I said, you all are all over the country, all over internationally as well, some of you. And so we want to make sure that you all do have a chance to connect with each other as much as possible because you have a shared experience of participating in the ACUHO-I housing internship program. And so we're going to have some fun stuff going on virtually over the summer, some trivia, some roundtables just for you all to talk about your experiences so far. But we want to hear from you. If you all have fun ideas about activities that can be done throughout the summer, please let us know. I'm going to put a survey in the chat so you all can fill that out. And everything will also be going out via email. So if you don't catch it in the chat right now, that's okay. We'll send out the surveys and the workbook. The other piece and opportunity that I want to share with you all, we are looking for 6 to 8 interns this summer who are willing to share their internship experience throughout the summer through social media. And then hopefully we can feature some of these interns in ACUHO-I's Talking Stick publication in the fall. So if you have interest in that, I'll put another survey in the chat because we are looking for people to sign up. Oh, so sorry. I put the wrong link in the chat. That was for supervisors. Um, I'll get the correct information in the chat in a second when we open it up for Q&A. So sorry, y'all. But like I said, we're looking for 68 interns. So we would follow you from the start of your internship all the way through the summer to the end. And so we're looking to do some highlights of that on social media and in other areas as well. So if you're interested in that, definitely sign up for that as well. And now I'm going to open it up to Q&A if people have questions, and I'm going to put the correct links in the chat for you all. Yes, the workbook is free, and I will put that link in the chat as well, and it will also be emailed out relatively soon as well. Well, if there are no further questions, Kimberly, Spencer, and I will stick around for a couple minutes if people have personal questions. Um, But with that, thank you all for attending. We enjoyed getting to see some of you today. And like I said, congratulations and good luck at you all's internships this summer. As always, if you have questions, you are more than welcome to reach out. You should have Spencer's email because he has sent you quite a few emails over the past few weeks. And it's right there. Thanks, Spencer.